Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'm sweating. It's a little warm today. The sun's out for the first time since we got here 4 days ago, and it's muggy. I'm not gonna lie, it's muggy, but I am not complaining about the heat as I walk in my full denim jeans and my brown leather boots and my long-sleeved cotton t-shirt. I am not complaining about the heat because where the fuck am I, right? Why would I complain? Life here was hard, and Jamie does not have it hard. So we are not going to complain about being a little sweaty in the butt crack today. But this is going to be the last video of the plantation before we leave. And so is another wall of honor. This one is different though. This one says, this memorial is dedicated to over 350 people who were enslaved in this plantation between 1752 and 1865. The names come from inventories, sales records, and manumission documents. West and Central African names can be seen on this memorial, as well as European names given to those people by their enslavers. And then here, again, we had seen this inside. Yesterday I did some pictures and video. Here's the slave trade pass. So if you were brought in from the Atlantic slave trade, it's the big orange ones. If you were brought in from the Indian Ocean slave trade, if we brought you in from, I can't find a green dot. Someplace there's a green dot because over here it says Trans-Saharan slave trade. So, but I'm not seeing that. So if you're, oh, here it is. Here it is. That's hard to stick out. The Mediterranean slave trade. Let's go steal us some people from the Mediterranean area. And then we've got these blue lines that are the main maritime streams. So here you go. This is how we would take a little boat over here, steal us some humans from here, steal us from humans from here, maybe talk somebody into trading us humans for guns over here. Even if it was a black person, they might trade humans for guns because they're trying to build a rebellion. And so they do harm to a few for the greater good of them all. And of course, that doesn't end up working out for anybody. But here's the memorial wall that's here right behind the church. And some of the names on here are definitely still their actual names. This guy up here, I don't know if you can see that. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not going to try. But he was from the Congo nation. This one is Bernard. Now, Bernard's from the Cambia nation. But I'm guessing his name might not have been Bernard when he got here. Now, these are interesting to me because there are full names out here. There's birth dates. Some of them have dates of their death, but the other walls back in the slave quarters, keep in mind those ones were only first names. They were almost all European renames, right? And so these slaves here may have been either more prominent slaves or more involved slaves because they seem to have been able to keep more data on them. And I'm going to read a few of these, okay? I want to start with this one here. This one was, I was born way back yonder in 1853 in slavery time. My pa and ma had 16 children, all by the same pa and ma, and we were raised right. I never went to any dances but played Ring Round Rosie and things like that, and I raised my children like that too. So that's Ellen Broomfield, who was a Louisiana slave. And then over here we have a story about how my ma had 15 children and none of them had the same pa. Every time she was sold, she would get another man. My ma had one boy by her moss that was my Mrs. Brother's child. You see, every time she was sold, she had to take another man. Her had 15 children after she was sold the last time. That's Julia Woodrich. Her date of birth was 1851 and she was a Louisiana slave. And Wayne's back. What do you want, honey? Oh, this one? Yeah, I've read all of these. This one says, I remember how my master used to come and take my sister and make her... I'm not reading this, so hold on. Let me start over. I remember how my master would come and get my sister, make her take a bath and comb her hair, and take her down in the quarter all night. Den have the nerve to come around the next day and ask her how she feel. Julia Woodruff, Louisiana slave. Now this is Julia. This is the same girl who had 14 other siblings by 14 other daddies. Now, What I read when I read that by myself before Wayne got here is you have to wonder, did the man come and ask her how she felt because he thought he had done it so good that he wanted her to fucking applaud him? Or had he been cruel to her, but he cared enough?
He asked me how she feeling today, and you done kept up all night, and she got to go to work today, and you been in there fucking all night.
All right, Wayne said fucking. I didn't say fucking. But Wayne said that the master was coming in to ask her how she felt because she'd been up doing dirty things all night, and now she's got to go to work. He sure didn't bother getting her out of work, though, did he? So here's the other side. Memorial wall. These names are all so much bigger font, so much more prominent names, and it just has to, lead the question of why were these slaves important enough to be kept track of a little bit better, right? Here's some artwork from Harper's Weekly of an African woman and her child. She's got her breast just hanging out. Now, who knows? Did she want her breast to hang out because that's where she came from? Was she told they had to hang out? Who knows whether she got to do what she wanted to. This one I haven't read, so I'm going to read it with you. We didn't have no shoes, and I wore a cottonade gown made of this blue denim. We didn't know what drawers was. You couldn't say your prayers, let alone read and write. I knowed my prayers. My mother teached me behind the master's back in her old dark house. She made candle with beef tallow. We didn't suffer from cold when we got in our beds with my ma and her 5 children. Then we was warm. That's from Carly Stewart, who was also a Louisiana slave. I'm going to walk back over and do one more quote that I read earlier. Okay. And then I'm going to walk over to the front of the church. So bear with me 1 second. This one. Here we go, guys. If you have no compassion in you yet, how about this? Let's apply this to each of us. When children used to get a whipping, they were taught to turn around and say, "Thank you, ma'am, for whipping me," and bow. That was mighty hard to do, but we were never allowed to pout. If we did, we got another. And if we just needed being punished, we were put behind a door and had to stand on 1 foot until we were ready to say we were sorry and promise not to do it again. If we told a story, our mouths were washed out with a soaped rag. And that's Francis Lewis, who was a Louisiana slave. That's actually not the one. I want to find the one about reading. Hold on. Bear with me because I want this one.
You go right there, Pauline.
Where, Pauline?
Going over the next one. Right
here, this one right here. This one here. No, Julia. I think it's the same as down there. So this one, again, if we want to question why black people may or may not have a lower level of education, let's go back to the beginning, shall we? Who? Us read? If you would have picked up a piece of paper, they would have slapped your damn head off. I used to deliver notes to the neighbor. They knew we couldn't read, and they didn't want us to learn how either. My ma used to jump up and down and say we gonna be free, but if the boss had heard of her, she would have been put into stocks, her hands, feet, and head. That would have been her punishment. Julia Woodrich, Louisiana slave. So, I really do think that clarified people should be willing to accept the fact that slavery is a whole lot bigger deal than a lot of people want you to accept or believe. We want to pretend like it's just the way shit was, right? It was the way shit was because the people who believed that they had the power took the power, right? And they chose what kind of society we have. They chose whether there is animosity between races or love, right? They chose animosity because they chose to use those people for their own greedy gains and not view them as other humans. They viewed everything that wasn't white. There's a book inside about the enslavement of American Indians, right? That happened. Japanese internment camps after World War, after Pearl Harbor, that happened, right? So white people love to lock up other colors. Ain't that some shit? And let's find out why, okay? So this is the part that's going to inflame some people. I hope up to now, other than Wayne and I dropping the F word there a minute ago, which I got to train him better, but I'm not redoing the whole video because of that. So, but because of that, that wasn't pleasant. But this this is the part you're not going to like. So if you feel like religion is more important than people, you might want to stop now, because it's not, okay? And what I'm going to tell you is that we have been indoctrinated to believe that black people are very good Christians and very good Catholics, and we don't want to talk about how black people were brainwashed into believing Christianity and Catholicism, right? We used that as a tool to control. Religion was every part. I don't know if you guys saw that. A beautiful white swan just flew right behind me. I'm going to turn it like this and maybe we'll see it fly back out. So I'm going to stand here like this now. So, but they used religion to control people because people came from Africa or other countries. They already had gods. They were quite freaking content with their own gods. And some of them were benevolent gods and some of them were ferocious gods, just like God is supposed to be. But he's a bundled package, right? You've got the good and the merciless in one entity. And so here we have a church, and this is called the Antioch Baptist Church. And I'm going to walk closer so you can read it, okay? So we can read it. But keep in mind, these people already had their own faith system, and they were forced and punished and rewarded by the white God, who was more powerful than anybody they had known. And the white God was a reflection of the white man, okay? Keep that in mind. So 1870, this church was built in Paulina, Louisiana by freed men, formerly known as the Anti-Yoke Baptist Congregation. It formed out of a mutual aid society. This congregation, now called the First Community Antioch Baptist Church, still exists. In 1990, they generously donated this original structure to the Whitney Plantation. So this building was not here on the plantation originally. It's part of the museum, which is fabulous. But look at this. What was it called? The Anti-Yoke Baptist Congregation. Who wore yoke? Who wore yokes? Oxen and slaves. Okay? So a church called Anti-Yoke, they're making a statement, right? They're making a statement. So we are now done with the Whitney Plantation tour. This was, I believe, my 4th video, and I hope that I explained my perspective on the fact that white people are horrible people when they believe that they are better than anybody else just simply because of skin color, because of background, because of education, because they've decided that they're better, right? Nobody's better. And I know that as much as anybody else should know that. And if we would all know that, then we'd have more clarified people and we'd have a less shitty planet. Welcome to the Whitney Plantation.